Hello, I'm Todd Rhodes with the Sustainable Lexington Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to present Article 31, Building Energy Use Disclosure Bylaw, which we refer to as BEU-D. The purpose of the article is to establish a bylaw to help property owners understand their energy performance compared to similar buildings in town. The implementation of an energy disclosure program was recommended as a first step in Lexington's 2018 Getting to Net Zero Emissions Plan. Similar programs are already established in Boston and Cambridge. Building owners in Lexington that have properties in those cities are already reporting under those programs. Also, the proposed bylaw is based on the requirements currently being followed in Boston and Cambridge and those being considered by the Commonwealth in House Bill H 3366. The bylaw is important because large buildings have a significant impact on Lexington's CO2 emissions. Existing commercial, industrial, and municipal buildings account for about 66% of electricity and about 50% of the natural gas used in Lexington's buildings, and about 40% of Lexington's CO2 emissions. Of these, about 120 buildings that are over 25,000 square feet account for about 80% of the total floor area of the town's CIM buildings, and likely account for a similar level of energy use. Ownership of these buildings is concentrated in a smaller group of building owners, so there are fewer than 100 affected building owners. The charts at the bottom of this slide illustrate the type of information to be collected and reported. The charts show information for several town buildings that are currently being tracked. On the left is a breakdown of the energy used by each building by energy source, electric or natural gas. Under the bylaw, the town would request similar annual energy use data for each of the covered buildings. The chart on the right shows the CO2 emissions associated with each building. The town would calculate emissions for each of the 120 buildings and report the results on an annual basis. As the two charts show, buildings that consume relatively large amounts of natural gas have higher CO2 emissions than buildings powered largely by electricity, like the new firehouse. As I had said, about 120 buildings, referred to as reporting units, would be covered by the bylaw. It focuses on municipal buildings and buildings over 25,000 square feet. Owners of these buildings would be required to annually report electricity in kilowatt hours with the energy label, which identifies the source of the electricity, natural gas in therms, fuel oil, diesel in gallons, propane in gallons. Beginning in 2023, the town would collect the information from the building owners for the previous year and apply standard metrics to calculate emissions intensity for each of the reporting units and by building type, and will include water consumption in gallons from records already maintained by town. Building owners can report the information to the town through EPA's portfolio manager, which is available at no cost to the building owner, or provided to the town using a similar tool. This information would be published annually in a publicly available report. To implement the program, we have considered two approaches. The outsource option was originally recommended by the previous sustainability director and is similar to the approach used by Cambridge. The outsourced firm would manage communications with building owners, compile the data, and create the initial draft of the annual report for review and approval by town staff. Alternatively, with less than 100 building owners to contact, the work could be completed internally. We have met with the Northeast Energy Efficiency Partnership, a nonprofit located on Hartwell Avenue, who has offered free initial use of their BEAM benchmarking tool. This tool could help track and trend the provided data and manage outreach with building owners. The work could be initiated by the Sustainable Lexington Committee and later performed by staff over a few weeks each year under the direction of the Sustainability and Resilience Officer. Beginning in the fall of 2021, we have reached out to building owners who would be affected by this bylaw. The overall view is that providing the limited information being requested on an annual basis would not be burdensome to building owners. Larger owners see the objective of this bylaw as being aligned with the values of their tenants and investors. The feedback also identified that owners of relatively smaller buildings would likely need support when reporting the required information, particularly in the first few years. Since the initial posting of this presentation, the following updates have been made to the motion. The potential for fines for not reporting have been delayed until after December 31, 2024, to provide more time for outreach to the 100 building owners. The requested appropriation for $70,000 linked to the outsource implementation option has been removed. This option is considered the more expensive approach, and when paired with a 2-year delay in enforcement, provides time for town staff to consider the program as part of the standard budgeting process. The definition previously included properties with 25 or more buildings less than 25,000 square feet. Residential condominium owners identified that this part of the definition was not aligned with the stated goal of collecting information about large buildings. The committee agreed to remove that portion of the definition. Given that we only have about 100 non-municipal buildings covered by this bylaw, we expect the level of effort to implement the program will be low. Minimal information will be collected from building owners. The cost and staff time to implement the program is estimated to be low, and the program is aligned with local communities and proposed state programs. Most importantly, the BEU-D bylaw will help Lexington understand energy use and greenhouse gas emissions progress. It is a foundational first step required to implement Lexington's Getting to Net Zero Emissions Plan, adopted by the Board of Selectmen in 2018. It has received strong support from Lexington's largest property owners and unanimous endorsement of both the Economic Development Advisory Committee and Sustainable Lexington Committee. It will provide the town with critically important information during rapid expansion of lab and life science buildings in Lexington, and it is consistent with the 2013 town meeting climate change warrant article and the 2020 town meeting declaration of a climate emergency. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present Article 31. We are happy to discuss any questions.